Mr. President, council members, and participants, we are now live.
Thank you, and good morning to all. We're going to get started now, but before we begin the public hearing, I'll make the following announcement. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19, City Council committees are currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make these remote hearings possible. Instructions for how the public may view and offer public testimony at public hearings of council committees are included in the public inquirer, the legal intelligencer, and prior to the hearing, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. Mr. McDermott, will you please call the roll, take attendance, and members say a couple of words to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. McDermott, please call the roll.
Councilmember Bass.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and our viewing public. Good morning.
Councilmember Brooks.
Good morning, council colleagues, council president, and viewing public.
Good morning.
Councilmember Dom.
Morning, council president, colleagues, attendees, and the viewing public.
Councilmember Gautier.
Good morning, council president, colleagues, and Philadelphia president.
Good morning.
Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. I am present. Thank you.
Good morning.
Councilmember Green. Councilmember Gibb.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilmember O.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. I'm present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Squilla.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. Present.
Good morning.
Councilmember Thomas.
Good morning, council president. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listeners.
Good morning.
And Council President Clark.
And good morning to you all. And the quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. This is the continued public hearing of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 220, 284, 220, 285, 220, 286, 220, 287, 220, 288, 220, 240, and resolution number 220, 300. Mr. McDermott, please read the titles of the bills and resolutions.
Bill number 220284, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2023 to 2028 inclusive. Bill number 220285, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2023 capital budget. Bill number 220286, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2023. Bill number 220287, an ordinance amending section 101001 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Fees of Commissioners of Records to increase certain fees for the recording of deeds and mortgages and related documents under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 220288, an ordinance amending section 191403 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Imposition of Tax by creating a Philadelphia County Demolition Fund to increase and encourage economic development by demolishing blighted properties within the city, imposing a related fee for recorded documents and related items, and making technical changes, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 220240, an ordinance substantially increasing the budget and number of areas and neighborhoods around the city served by the Community Life Improvement Program to improve the health, safety, and cleanliness of every neighborhood and enhance the quality of life for all residents. And resolution number 220300, resolution providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia covering fiscal years 2023 through 2027, and incorporating revised changes with respects to fiscal year 2022, which is to be submitted by the Mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, the authority pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement authorized by an ordinance of this Council, approved by the Mayor on January 3rd, 1992, by and between the City and the authority.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. Today, we continue the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk They constitute proposed operating and capital spending measures for fiscal 2023, a capital program, and a forward-looking capital program for fiscal 2023 through fiscal 2028. Before we begin to hear testimony from the witnesses we have here today, everyone has been invited to the meeting to testify should be aware that this is a public hearing and is being recorded. Because the hearing is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in the meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. Additionally, prior to recognizing members for the questions or comments they have for witnesses, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. Thank you very much. And this morning we will hear testimony from Mural Arts and the Free Library. This afternoon we will hear testimony from SEPTA and Parks and Recreation. Mr. McDermott, the first person to testify today is...
The first person to testify from the administration is the Executive Director of Mural Arts, Jane Golden.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you? Nice to see you.
Great. Just state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Jane Golden. Good morning. I'm Jane Golden, as I said, the Executive Director of the Mural Arts Program. Thank you, Council President Clark and City Council, for the opportunity to testify before you today on behalf of our FY23 proposed budget. It is a budget of $2.5 million. Mural Arts Philadelphia is rooted in the belief that art ignites change. And with the significant challenges our city faces, especially post-COVID, we believe that even more deeply. Many of you have known me for many years, and you know that I'm an eternal optimist, always enthusiastic. I'm driven by the spirit of citizens across our city. I know that we can make Philadelphia a healthy, creative, collaborative, safe place for all, and I know in my heart that art plays an essential role in that. This work takes a village. City departments, dedicated staff, brilliant artists, visionary community partners, resilient nonprofits, committed business and civic leaders. All engage with us in different ways and have felt the power of mural arts when creativity and common purpose interact. Our work is expansive, impactful, and touches every single part of this city, including areas and communities that have at times felt neglected or unseen. I'm going to highlight some bodies of work right now. Our Guild program for justice-impacted young men and women and our Women's Reentry program continue to deliver incredible results. The recidivism rate in 2021 hovered between 8 and 10%, remarkably lower than the statewide recidivism rate of 34%. And our job placement rate is close to 80%. To all of you in the administration for our community expansion grant called Transforming Spaces, Transforming Lives, where we're partnering with the Department of Park and Recreation to transform rec centers. We have expanded our fellowship program for Black artists, which builds pathways to opportunities and careers for BIPOC artists. The program is thriving. We are in our third year, and it continues to bring opportunities to artists across our city. Despite budget cuts and COVID, our art education program continues to thrive, serving over 2,000 young people ages 11 to 18, free after-school programs and during the school day and summer programs at schools, recreation centers, and social service agencies. Our Porchale program, which is our formal partnership with the Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services, is deeply embedded in Kensington, a part of the city that I know we all know is in need. Today, I am proud to say we have 35 programs across Kensington. We work in recreation centers, in parks, in schools. We work with veterans and social service agencies. We touch the lives literally every year of hundreds and hundreds of people ranging in age between 5 and 85. It's inspiring. And Mural Arts is a constant presence in Harrogate, working with the community to identify areas for murals, art interventions, public community events that re-energize park spaces, which have for years been neglected or underutilized due to the opioid epidemic and violence that has taken hold in this community. At first, people were unsure about mural arts, but now we are building trust and we are building hope, and that is so exciting to see. There's a recently dedicated artwork by the former poet laureate Trapita Mason. She worked with people across Kensington, and they designed this piece. And it says in neon, "In our story of us, there is always light here. And I believe that. And of course, there's our Color Me Back program, which we launched in the spring of 2019 with the help of the Department of Behavioral Health, the Scheller and Scattergood Foundation, the Office of Homeless Services, and SEPTA. It's a same-day work and pay program that provides paid work with a low barrier to entry. Our participants are treated with respect and dignity by trauma-informed staff. They earn $50 for 3 hours of work, learn to prepare walls for murals, manage materials and tools, learn job skills, contribute to beautifying our city. More than 1,500 participants have been paid close to $250,000 since the founding of the program in 2019, and it was recently expanded from Suburban Station to Kensington, where we're transforming the Emerald Street underpass. The program has been so impactful, it was even featured on the Kelly Clarkson Show. Yay! She made a $20,000 donation because she was so inspired. And I haven't even touched on community murals, where we're doing wonderful work. We're doing a big project about the colored conventions, studying 19th century Black Philadelphia, doing a big project about Norris Square, connecting Philly to Puerto Rico, a project called We Write the World about early childhood literacy, mural restorations, where we're restoring about 30 projects a year, environmental justice, or the Mural Arts Institute. 5 minutes just isn't enough, but trust me when I tell you there is much going on at Mural Arts. The city's investment provides an incredible return. In FY22, we employed 235 artists, and that number is growing every year, and it's incredibly diverse. We engaged 25,000 people in our programmatic areas and our public programs. We created 75 new works of public art, which brings our total in Philadelphia to 4,350 indoor and outdoor murals, making us the leader in the world, and we've generated positive press for the city nationally and internationally. We stretch our city budget as far as it can go, and when we think we've gone far enough, we say stretch more. In fact, we raise $4 for every city dollar that we get. We all know the needs across the city are great. We're being called to do more all the time by every council. My answer to the citizens of this city to be yes, because art ignites change and transformation, and every neighborhood deserves to feel the power and inspiration of that. In closing, I just want to say healing our city is a task that belongs to all of us. The challenge for us is to ask ourselves, what do we stand for? And then let's do our best to act on those beliefs, for our choices that we make create a city our young people will inherit. Let it be a Philadelphia filled with equity, with opportunities, with peace, and with beauty. Thank you so much, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Golden, and thank you for your long-standing work, your world-renowned work. We appreciate what you've done in your organization. Got a couple of questions before I turn it over to my colleagues. You promoted and implementing an incredibly successful program, Color Me Back. It's a part of the same-day work and pay. Can you tell me where we are with the program and this, how successful it's been as it relates to the individuals that are participating in that program?
Yes, I'm really happy to say we're working with several hundred people in Suburban Station, and many of the people were sleeping there, and now are we try to retain. So we have a number of people working with us. In fact, a few people are rising up to leadership positions. So I'm really thrilled about that. And we're transforming the concourse. So we have a great partnership with SEPTA. There's a lot of, if everybody knows the concourse, which I know you all do, it's bleak and in need of beauty. So we're providing a real service. But more importantly, SEPTA has opened the door to possible employment opportunities. We're also working with Career Link and First Step Staffing. And through DBH, we have peer specialists. We've now, a year ago, started working in Kensington. And there we're working with people who are unhoused, but also people who are housed, but their lives are very frayed, and we're bringing people together to transform. There are a number of underpasses there that are just in terrible shape, and we're working to transform the underpasses, and at the same time, again, identify barriers to employment. What is it? Is it an ID? Are there certain forms? Are there other social services you need? And then try to get people on a path to low barrier work, and then keep following them and try to keep promoting them so that they feel really supported by us.
Okay. With respect to the underpasses, you referenced that. And there are a number of underpasses through our city. I know some by CSX, but a lot by SEPTA and Amtrak. Is there a plan to expand the underpass murals? Because I've noticed that those underpasses, when you put murals up on them and you actually put some brighter lighting, we've got to get the streets department to do a better job with that. It pretty much stays clean of graffiti. It just lightens it up. It makes you feel a lot more comfortable walking under some of those underpasses. Are you all looking at expanding that? If so, I got a couple of bridges that I'd like to recommend to you along the Carter.
We would love to hear, Council President, we would love to get that information because we do have a plan to apply for 2 multimodal grants to do work in underpasses because there's so much need. The other thing is in Kensington, we have had some problems with graffiti, and we are working with a firm in LA, and there is a material that we can use to coat the walls with where we can actually wash it off, and the coating will not ruin the color, because that was what we always were struggling with that. So we're really constantly working hard to try to figure out how we can create beauty and sustain the beauty. And these underpasses, like I know several, especially if you go on 21st Street right here in Center City, we did one, and it is beautiful. And there was constant graffiti there, constant, and it's gone there. So I've looked. Councilwoman Bass has had me out in Germantown. I've looked there. We'd be very happy to come out to North Philly. There are actually requests from your district that are coming in for underpasses. So we're on a mission because that we can do. And people can, as people, our guild program or Color Me Back, as they're transforming the built environment of Philadelphia, they themselves are transforming. And that's what's so inspiring.
Yeah. Now you mentioned Councilwoman Bass. I know there's one that I see, Germantown Avenue. It's a trolley. It's like the historical.
Yes.
And they actually have looks like an African American person driving a trolley. Right. I'm assuming there's some history to that, and that's a really, really nice mural. It stays clean.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Pretty slick.
Thank you.
You also your organization works in the reentry program significantly, and in your testimony you say that it used to be like 82% of the reentry participants are employed 6 months after completing the Mural Arts program. Is that?
Yes. We are working really hard. We have, here's just an example of people who are employing our folks. Amazon, UPS, SEPTA, Northeast Building Products, Team Clean, Wash Cycle, Finish Line Shoes, Triangle Roasters, Triple Bottom Brewery, Downtown North Pizza, Edible Delights. Like I could go on and on. There are probably 25 places that are now, like, we have great relationships with. We depend on our board, any of our vendors. We're like, look, it takes a village to do this work, and we want you to show your support. And now I'm so happy because we're working with HopeWorks in Camden, and we are training our participants in technology. And so they will actually, Council President, I'm so excited. They will, within a year, be like ready for different kinds of jobs, not just $14, $15 an hour, right? We want to build their skills so they can join the workforce. That is our dream.
Yeah, okay. That's awesome. That's good stuff. I wish most programs had that level of participation and success rate. One last question. Again, one of those 5th District questions. So it's this mural that was done at 29th and Diamond. And I think you remember it.
Yes.
Certain jazz artist, historical perspective from the city of Philadelphia, and he had this eerie resemblance of a certain person that happened to get elected to a particular office in that area, and actually was commended for being able to get a mural on a wall of that significance. I had to explain to the people that's actually not me, that's John Coltrane, right? But I'll take that. But And it did. Right?
It was uncanny.
But somebody decided, and I'm not going to say the person's name, but they decided, it was in front of a vacant lot, and they decided to buy one lot right in front of the mural. And they built this 3-story building and covered up the mural, right? And I know that's a challenge that we have, and consistently. First, I want to ask you, is that person going to replace that mural? And second, is there some sort of strategy that we can put in place to make sure that when we put these murals up, because I know in a lot of instances they're costly and the people really love them. Have you guys given some thought about strategies on how we do these murals that have some level of permanency?
Yes, I'm so happy you asked that question. First, I'm thrilled to give you very good news that we have found a great wall just a block away for the John Coltrane mural. And the design is spectacular. And indeed, it still looks like you. I've seen the design. And Project Home owns the little lot in front and will not be building there. So I really think we have found a safe place. And we're going to be dedicating this in June. And we're going to be inviting you, and we're going to have an afternoon of jazz and celebration. And the community is beyond thrilled because this was a dream for the mural to find its way to a place that's safe. So thank you for encouraging us to really be judicious about where we're finding sites. So I want to say that, and I want to say the developer did contribute. We were on a mission to make sure that happened, and the Strawberry Mansion Nat was fabulous as a really great partner. Now, as far as developers go, I have been working with Councilmember Gilmore Richardson and Councilmember Bass, and over the years we have talked about, is it possible to have some kind of amendment that asks developers to inform us when they're going to tear down a mural or build in front? We never want to stand in the way of economic development, but let's face it, the public art in the city are civic assets. People love them, and I have attended too many community meetings where I hear people, well, either organizing a protest about it or saying when a project goes away, we feel like our lives are being erased. This is our important history. It's who we are as a city. We're known internationally as a city of murals. We need to protect our collection. So if a developer notifies us, then we can at least say, okay, thank you. We can tell the community so they're not blindsided. Can you contribute to something new? And then you know how we leverage money all the time. But if we don't know and we're just shocked and you drive by, as I know you have, sometimes you call me and you say, oh my God, what happened to the Cecil B. Moore mural? That's not good for any of us. And as a city, we lose out. We need to be able to walk and chew gum. We can do economic development and we can have an extraordinary collection of public art.
Yeah, never forget them getting rid of the Dawn Staley mural on Market Street.
Guess what? We're going to do that too. We're on a mission for that as well. And we're looking for the sites now. But thank you, and thank you for your support and encouragement.
Thank you, Ms. Golden. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning to you, Jane, and members of your team. Special thank you for all of your work, and your energy is infectious. The council president started with programs, and I'll get back there, but I need you to tell me, because when I looked through the numbers, it looked as if the Department of Mural Arts was actually getting a cut, that you were taking a cut. But then I also see a request in the budget that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but I'm extremely proud of, and that is a $200,000 appropriate for commercial corridor revitalization via public art and mural arts. So one, how much is the cut? From what I see, it seems like you're getting about $140,000 left in FY23 than in 22. And you've got to tell me, I heard the president, I've got some requests. Everybody's got some requests for some things they want to get done. How is the proposed decrease in your FY23 budget going to affect programming and everything we want to see done?
Well, it's hard. I have to say, it's hard because this is the truth. The amount of money we have to invest in the art itself is relatively small. It's like $400,000. We're the 5th largest city in the country with a waiting list of several thousand people who want work. And all the work is good. Like when I say I never want to say no, you all know me. I always want to say yes. I want to say yes to you and say yes to citizens. But it's a little bit of money. So the cut, it does hurt us. And Councilmember Parker, I'm so glad you brought up commercial corridors because we were just up on North 5th Street and we saw potential everywhere. Imagine that corridor filled with public art, people coming up there to go on tours, eat at the restaurant. You have so many fabulous markets, the Haitian markets, the Korean markets. I mean, it's like the UN. And for me,
right,
a person who thinks about art, my like antenna went up and saw, ta-da! Oh my God, we could do so much. So
And we have an underpass. We have an
And you
underpass
have
there as well, okay?
That's right. That's right.
Oh.
And think about it. And we could put to work local artists everywhere. When people say there's talent across our city that has gone unrecognized, and we say shine a light on the talent, there's so much potential.
Well, I just wanted to make sure that I noted that for the record, for my colleagues, with all of the requests that we have and the work that we expect and hope for you to do, but that in what is being proposed, you would be taking a cut. And we need to find a way to remedy that throughout this budget process. And I just want to affirm that it is a priority for me. With that, now I need to go back. I needed to get the cut on the record first, but now I do need to get back to some thank yous. Sam Rodriguez, he completed the mural at the Hammond and Nedrow Field and is working with our young people at the Houseman Playground and the ACE Mentoring Group to beautify that site. I needed to say thank you to him. And let me tell you this, the work that Randall Whitfield did on 5th Street with the George Floyd mural, it went across the nation. Okay, when white nationalists came in and thought that they would dampen the spirit of that community, the most linguistically diverse zip code, 19120, and the entire, not just city of Philadelphia, but the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the community came back with the leadership of mural art stronger than they were before, to not just replace the George Floyd mural, but we made it bigger, brighter, better, and even stronger. So I wanted to thank them for the record. Also, I want to say, for the benefit of the viewing public, on all of the commercial quarters, $200,000 is being requested for commercial quarter revitalization, and we want to make sure that that effort can be dispersed throughout commercial quarters in the entire city of Philadelphia. So eyes on that. Another question, Jane, and I needed you to answer this for me. Tell me about, for the benefit of the public, what your community engagement process is before you install the murals, and are the murals, like, quote unquote, pre-designed before you make a pitch to the community? Tell us quickly, if you can, what that process is like.
Sure. I think for the most part, our murals are created in partnership with the community. Just this last week, I've been on either Zooms or I've been in person meeting with people. They have an idea. They've made it through the waiting list process, and we're sitting and we're talking about what are they thinking of, and then thinking together about who the artists could be. We had a meeting last night with Yay Philly, an organization in West Philadelphia. Again, what do people want? What are they thinking of? A mural that centers young people. That's great. We have a young artist. Then what happens next, council member, is that then a series of designs are presented, and then we just make sure that we make sure that people feel on board with the artist choice and the design.
Well, listen, I appreciate your getting that on the record, because we just need to affirm for the viewing public that no decisions about the who, what, and how in their neighborhoods occurs without an active process where the people who are there on the ground get to contribute to that decision making, which is why I needed you to get that on the record. Let me also affirm, Council President already acknowledged Color Me Back. You talked about the number of people and what additional funding and participation would be like. And thank you for shouting out that we made it to the Kelly Clarkson show. I was like putting my chest out about that, like, yeah, check out Philly. So I'm happy about that. But I want you to mention the porch light programs. That's your collaboration with behavioral health. I want you to mention that. And then I want you talked a little bit about it in response to the president, but I want you to add in the Restorative Justice Guild and then Reimagining Reentry. So just give us, a quick overview of those three, and I'm going to go on mute and listen.
Okay, our Porch Light program, super proud of this. It started in 2007 with a big grant from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, and we leveraged it, matching. And now today it lives on, working with people coping with trauma, with addiction, with housing insecurity. We work with veterans dealing with PTSD. We're also working in new immigrant communities and talking about what it means to come to a new country and really discovering everyone's resilience. So it's a really multifaceted, very deep program. We work in agencies. We take over empty storefronts and turn them into thriving community centers. Because of our partnership with DBH, we are working with clinicians and with therapists. We are not art therapists. I think it's good to know where our strengths are and what we don't know, and then you build a village of support so that the programs we offer are all very deep and rich and really get to the problem. So
thank you. We need to have the wrap up staffing and participation with additional funding there. Want to get that on the record. The Restorative Justice Guild and Reimagining Reentry. For each of those, I just want you to answer how many participants do you currently have and what work are you on track to complete, and do the same thing for Restorative Justice Guild and Reimagining Reentry. Thank you.
For the Guild, we're serving about 130 people every year. Thanks to the community expansion grant, we had an additional 30. It's usually about 100. And we're very thankful to the city for their support on that. We started a women's reentry program a year ago because we found that women have very different needs. And so we want to be very specific to them. We created an advisory group of all women impacted by the system. The program it's absolutely flourishing. And I invite all of you, anytime you'd like to come visit our headquarters, please do. We just started working in the county jail again at ASD with women who are there. And we just found out, I'm so happy because of COVID, we stopped our program. We were in Graterford Prison. We started working there in 2002 and worked, then Graterford shut down and it's Phoenix now. And we started working in Phoenix. COVID happened and we were prevented from going in, but we are going back in June and I'm thrilled. We have an art room and we'll start working with people in the state facility.
Thank you so much. I know my colleagues have additional questions, so thank you for your responses. I just needed to make sure they were on the record.
Yeah, thank you. And Reimagining Reentry is our fellowship program for artists who've been, who come out of the county jail or prison.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Council President, and also special thanks to our Majority Leader. I think most of the questions I had have already been asked, but I heard a word when you were providing your testimony, Jane, a word called inspiration. And how can you not be inspired when we hear you speak about the wonderful work that you do and all the team and staff at Mural Arts? It has been wonderful to work with you all, even with my colleague, Councilmember Thomas, with the Illuminate the Arts Grant Program, and just all the work we've been able to do over the last year or two. Our Madam Majority Leader already put this on the record relative to what is proposed in the upcoming fiscal year budget. Could you just, for the record, let us know how much less would that be year over year?
It's about $145,000 less. And in this fiscal year, because of your hard work, Council Member, we were able to receive, I think it was $200,000 in the last fiscal year, which is going away. And we are getting, this year we had requested $381,000 for Color Me Back, and we've gotten $100,000. So as it stands right now, actually only a small portion of city dollars will be going to Color Me Back. And our worry is that we think we should not be leaving Kensington. We think this is no time for us to stop working there. It's like what Nadia Malik said. She runs our Porch Light program. She said, I think, Jane, the other day we were talking about it, she goes, I feel like we're changing the way, like this is a creative approach to a city crisis, homelessness, housing insecurity. And it's like, there are many ways to deal with this, right? But creativity and art, like we've got to hold on to our innovative ways of thinking because traditional interventions sometimes fail us. So as the 5th largest city in the country, we need a broad palette of approaches. And one of the approaches, and that's why I thank you so much for recognizing what art can mean, because we can be practical and aspirational at the same time.
Agreed. And we look forward to continuing to work with you and ensure that you all are fully funded. You know that we are fully supportive of the work that you do in Mural Arts and want to ensure you can continue to do the work you're doing and also expand on the work that you've been doing, because I think it's an important part of workforce development, particularly as a first step of workforce development for individuals looking to get back into the workforce. And so you talked about all the programs that you've worked on and the Porch Light Program, Restorative Justice Guild, Reimagining Reentry, and all of them, to a degree are workforce development as well. And so you talked about the amount of participants in the program. Do you know how many are currently placed in jobs or in careers as a result of the program? And then what other ways could we support mural arts around expanding access to programs and building partnerships between the programs you provide and then employers?
Well, I think any ideas you have of employers, we're happy to follow any lead. We are creating, for our criminal justice work, an advisory committee, so any ideas that you have for that would be good. We're always looking for experts in the field and always doing research on best practices to make sure that we're up on things and that we're really well-versed in how people are working. And we also are layering in different parts of our program. For both Color Me Back and the Guild, we've hired a jobs developer now and a social worker. So we're trying to pay attention to people's their psychological and social needs, as well as the needs they have to move forward. I think, Council Member, so many people are struggling, and we think it's like magic. People are just going to get a job. And there's really, I think where Mural Arts is really good is we are the preparatory ground. We can really be the rich ground where people are getting ready for that next step. There's a lot of love, and we do the work with integrity so that people are learning, they're gaining skills, they're supported. If they are, we deal with their trauma, and then you can see how they become stronger and more resilient, ready to face the world of work.
No, it's very, very important work, and you really meet people where they are in an area, in an industry that can really uplift you at a time of need. And so I just wanted to say thank you for your work. We look forward to supporting you again during this process and continuing to work together on the policy initiatives that we are working on as well. Thank you very, very much, Jane, and to the entire team at Mural Arts. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm. Councilwoman Gimm. Okay, Councilwoman on. Okay, we'll come back. Chair recognizes.
They're ready for you.
Hello.
Hello.
My apologies. Sorry about that.
No problem. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gimm. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you very much, Council President. First of all, I want to thank Jane Golden, along with all of my other colleagues, for your tremendous work on a host of programs, in part, many of them focusing on young people who are or have been involved in the justice system, on communities and neighborhoods that have been deeply impacted by the concurrent crises of the pandemic, gun violence, and the opioid crisis. And I'm wondering how you see this work and the programs that you are doing being a critical part of our public safety plan as well, in terms of healing young people, putting folks into opportunities to address trauma, be provided with jobs and mentors, and to do on-the-ground work in neighborhoods and communities that's highly, highly visible to many of us as we seek to find solutions beyond the most obvious ones for public safety. Your program has certainly come into play, and we've heard many of your participants say so accordingly. I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to some of that and how you're seeing some of this work, because I do think we're looking at it as part of the public safety package of work, and makes the restoration of funds to the program even more critical.
Thank you for that question. I really appreciate it. I would say that I've had the privilege of working for the city of Philadelphia since I worked for the Anti-Graffiti Network. And so we've worked with young people for a long time. And what is needed are substantive programs over sustained periods of time that are sort of multitaskers. And I think why art making is so important, it's because it's both meditative, it's healing. People are able to see potential in themselves that they did not see. And then if you start layering in social services, skill building, opportunities, putting things in people's sightline so they can think there could be a different world for them. There's got to be something in the sightline. So I think our ability to weave art into how we're working as it relates to public safety, it's important for a person's own sort of mental safety, their own sense of well-being. But because they're giving back in a very tangible way, it's getting recognized continually by the public. So the loop in their head was, I'm no good, I have failed, things aren't working out. Instead, people are driving by going, oh my God, that's beautiful. People say to me, Jane, I tell people I'm working for Mural Arts, and people go, oh my God, did you do the Dr. J mural? Did you do this mural? So suddenly people like feel a sense of belonging. What someone said to me was, Jane, I feel like I'm home. And that is what we want. So the question is, can we beautify our city? Can we make people feel safer? Can we challenge them to think about their potential and then provide them with the skills to get on the path, another path? That's what we want. You know, I've often think about the transcendent power of art, and I believe it because I see it all the time. Our challenge is we just want to serve more young people because they're out there and there's talent that resides in literally thousands of young people across the city that has sadly and historically gone unrecognized.
Well, I want to thank you for your work. I know my colleagues have more questions as well, but I want to thank you for your work and to say that, we're fully supporting, the support of Mural Arts, its programming, and the energy that you continue to bring to urgent moments like now. So thank you very much. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Green. Councilman Green. Okay, we'll come back. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Jane Golden, for being a Philly icon. You go down with salt pretzels, water ice, water plugs, and the park. And I mean that ever since Tim Spencer passed, you pick up that baton and you kept running. And you have elevated the program to, as President Clark talked about, international. All politics is local, so I want to thank you for the Overbrook Environmental Center, which was just completed on Lancaster Avenue, which is one of the few urban environmental horticultural preservation centers in Philly. They have their own hoop farm. But that mural they did on the side of that wall so complements some of the vegetables, some of the bioretention basins. It just transforms it into a little oasis. I want to thank you for 55th and Hunter, right above Lansdowne, where the waterfalls are. And they put crystal embedded into the mural so that as the light cascades on the mural, it creates an impact of waterfalls actually going. That used to be the smoke den for that area. People used to get high in that park. Now they get married in that park. It has a gazebo. The water department put some work in and fencing in, and now that's where that community's town square is located. So I want to just say also that there is a I Am Art Life group that spun off from your program. You've done maybe hundreds of them, but these young men got the courage, some of them, to quit their jobs, start their business in art, painting, outdoor restoration of walls. They did a piece for us at 57th and Master. I give you the story that was an area. It wasn't bad, but it was pretty much lifeless. It was pretty much walk by. People might throw trash on it and keep moving. Because of the fencing, because of the mural. And there was, this is urban legend, a chicken, once we fenced it, found its way into that yard. a rooster, I believe. And we started feeding it, and then one day it disappeared. We thought it wound up in some neighbor's pot. But we then painted a picture, a artist rendering of the rooster on the wall. The day we cut the ribbon to open it, guess who came back with a few of his friends? The rooster. And that is a true story, Jane, and it just speaks to how art can be transformative, how it can turn a lot that nobody used and walked by into where seniors stretch, students read, and it becomes a place of peace as opposed to a crime scene waiting to happen. Speaking of which, some artists you may know from the institution, we're trying to pull together a program where some of their art from behind the walls actually gets sold outside of the walls, so that there is fees and fines paid, restitution done, so that when they come out, they monetize their talent so that they have a living to look forward to. So I don't have any questions. I only have comments. All of them are favorable, and I always enjoy your budget presentations. It's like a ray of sunshine, a glass of orange juice, or Starbucks in the morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning to everyone, and good morning, Jane. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
And to all of your friends, all of your colleagues from Mural Arts, we thank you. It's funny. I don't know about that story that Councilman Jones just mentioned about the rooster and his friends coming back. I really have to have verification on that, Councilman. That's unbelievable.
I'm gonna provide you the proof. That rooster survived the hood because of art.
Well, that's saying something right there. All right now. So, but seriously, I wanted to thank Jane and Mural Arts for the outstanding job that they do in addressing the quality of life issues. And as a district council member, it's really our everything. It's really our bread and butter to provide the quality of life and the services, the cleanliness, the attractiveness that communities want to see. And so Mural Arts is a really big part of what it is that we're trying to achieve. And I would say, you do your work in pockets and districts, with the district council members and with our direction. And then when you look at it collectively and all of the work citywide, it adds up to a big win for all of us as Philadelphians. You make us look good. And so I wanted to say, thank you, Jane. Thank you, Mural Arts, all of the staff, all of the, folks who are behind the scenes, the folks who are actually doing the art installations and the work. You make us look good, and I just really wanted to underscore that. And I am in full support of you and your budget, which I am, as someone who grew up in North Philadelphia, I can always appreciate someone who can take a little something and make a whole lot out of it. And so you've done that time and time and time again, and you would really benefit, I believe, from a much more robust budget. I think that this will be money well spent by the city of Philadelphia, and this is something that we ought to be seriously considering. And as we have budget conversations, I certainly will be adding my voice to the chorus of folks. I know a lot of folks, Councilman Jones and others, who are in full support of making sure that there is a very robust budget for the Mural Arts program. So I wanted to say that. I also wanted to ask you a couple of questions, and just going back to one other point, I want to say that also beautification of our neighborhoods just shouldn't be in affluent neighborhoods. Beautification belongs in every neighborhood, and especially those that are plagued with blight. And your work really puts, an apostrophe at the end of that sentiment. So, that's just really, really important to underscore. I wanted to, in mentioning that, I wanted to say that as we've been working together to address blight, we've been working, as you mentioned earlier, touring in the 8th District, particularly around underpasses. And so we've come up with some planning around underpasses to add beautification through murals, to add lighting, to do cleaning. And I'm wondering, has there been any outreach from other departments within the city of Philadelphia to sort of make this sort of like a comprehensive model that we could employ throughout the city of Philadelphia? Because, you know, in a lot of neighborhoods, it's not just North Philly, it's not just Germantown, it's not just Nicetown. You have a lot of neighborhoods where you have an underpass and people look at that as a place where they can dump and they can do graffiti and they can, you know, do all kinds of other things that I don't want to mention, you know, online here. But is there any sort of attempt to coordinate those efforts in a much more strategic way? Because I think we will see a big benefit for our neighborhoods.
No, but I think it's a great idea. And I would like to, everybody who's listening, if you could think of this, there's a site on 6th Street by Franklin Square. It is beautiful. It is color and it's LED. And
I saw that. I want that in my district. I want that.
Imagine if we did that across the city, because there would be an economy of scale if we were able to say, okay, 10 districts, we could do that. It would be phenomenal. And we know how to do it. It's not like a secret. Right? I'm telling you, it's just about resources, and we know, and I believe, and I want to just be really, everybody, you know me, I am so grateful to the support from the city. You know I am, but yes. I believe life is a journey of faith, and you believe in things before they're real, and then you do your best to act on that, right? And
yes.
With resources, because of the way we leverage, if we got a little more money, then we stretch it, then we match it, then we get more money. And then some of the funders who fund us, foundations, they love that we're funded by the city. They love that it's a match. And so we could do this, and it would be transformative.
Well, I just want to say that, and I saw the council president come on for a quick second, but I just wanted to say that, Mr. President, I don't know if you know the site that Jane is referring to over by Franklin Square Park, but have you seen that? Are you familiar with that, Mr. President?
I am very familiar with it. I was a little upset, I got to tell you. There was a little lady there that used to sell flowers, and they had a mural of the little lady, and they erased the mural. I think you remember that, Jane. Yeah, I know, I didn't like that, but they did replace it with some awesome lights, and those lights are like, Councilwoman, I'm with you. I want one of those in my district, too.
Yes, yes. Yes. So another reason why we need to be in full support of the budget, you know, beyond the budget requests of Jane Golden and Mural Art. So, but we'll, I'm sure, Mr. President, you'll find a spot in the district for the lady and the flower spot, and Jane will be happy, I'm sure, to accommodate. Two last things I just wanted to touch on real quick. Restorative justice. Thank you, Jane Golden, for taking myself and my staff several years ago up to Graterford. Now, you know, we're planning a trip, I know, to SCI Phoenix to meet with those gentlemen who do the work around restorative justice in our communities, you know, who have, many of whom were lifers or who, you know, have had significant amount of time and who have put that time to good use by beautifying our communities with art projects that have been supervised and organized through Mural Arts. So I'm wondering, is restorative justice in your budget plans in this budget?
Yes, there's an allocation that goes towards restorative justice. Well, it's not an allocation. It's we received from the mayor's office this is for FY2023. I believe it's $50,000 or $75,000 for the Women's Guild. Nothing for the Guild. But we do, part of our overall budget does go to the Guild. But as I had mentioned, if we serve with that money and money we raise, we can serve 100 participants because of the community expansion grant, which will be up at the end of this calendar year. We can serve an additional 30. Our goal would be, we'd love to serve several hundred if we could. And I just want to say that, council member, I just want you to know, because this is exciting, that some of the juvenile lifers who were at Graterford have gotten out And a number
Yes.
of them are succeeding in their art careers. Russell Craig had a show open 2 weeks ago in Chelsea,
Yes.
in New York, and he is
Yes.
selling his paintings for between $25,000 and $50,000. That is a huge victory, everybody. How many more Russell Craigs are out there to go
Yes.
to Councilmember Gim's question? They are out there, and this is why this work in the prison is so important, because there's so much talent behind those walls, and the work we do with young people is so important as well.
Well, I had the pleasure and opportunity to meet Mr. Russell Craig during one of those trips at Graterford, along with many others who have been making their way, who were juvenile lifers who have now been are returning citizens and who are doing really good work here in the city of Philadelphia. And I have to say, I'm honored to say that I have a Russell Craig original. I'm gonna store it away, that he sent me back when he was still at Graterford. And so I'm going to store that away because it's very valuable for more than one reason. He's doing great work. And the last thing I just want to mention, I know the bell has rung, but I did want to mention that our office is working on a bill to require developers to reimburse the Mural Arts program when a mural is removed or obscured through development. So that's something that we have been working on. I know that my colleague, Councilwoman Kathy Gilmore Richardson, required murals to, like if you're going to obscure, that there would actually be a permit process that would be into play, so that there would be some sort of a tag that we would be able to attach and pay attention to, something's getting ready to happen here. So I just wanted to let you know that, we're working on these matters. We really appreciate you, Jane, and all of your crew. And I thank you for all of the work that you do on behalf of the citizens of Philadelphia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That means a lot.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Let us know if we can be of support with respect to the legislation on the mural issue, because too many awesome murals have been displaced or covered up, and that's a very, very significant question. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson. Then I see Councilman Green is back. We'll come up. Councilman Green, you'll be right after Councilman Johnson.
Oh, thank you, Council President. I'll be brief because a lot of my questions were answered, as well as some of the statements, but just want to personally and publicly acknowledge the work of Jane and your team regarding not only the murals and the beautification that you're doing throughout the city of Philadelphia, but my key issue is your restorative justice program that focuses on helping individuals turn around their lives. And so just a couple of questions. What's the total budget for your restorative justice program? And also, what type of offenses have individuals had who actually signed up for your restorative justice program? And then last, how do you deal with referrals? Who gets to participate and who isn't available to participate in the restorative justice program? I want to also thank you for taking DeJuan under your wing, as well as Ricky Duncan under your wing. And I appreciate you serving, I call it a mentor, in a mentor capacity, because I know they do a lot of work with you, but also in terms of them being young, up-and-coming leaders in the community, you also, as a sounding board for a lot of work that they do in terms of helping our young people be productive members of society.
Well, one thing is, thank you for mentioning that. I learn as much from them as I hope they learn from us, so there's a lot of mutuality. So let me take your questions one by one. So you asked about what the total budget is for restorative justice, and I'm going to defer to my colleague. I think Jenny Bacardo-Dubé is on the line. Jenny, could you come on and answer that?
Yes, certainly, Jane. So the total restorative justice budget hovers around between $1.2 and $1.4 million.
And then your other question.
Go ahead. And that gives you the ability to serve how many individuals?
100. 100. Well, it's up a little bit. It's elevated now because of the community expansion grant that we're so deeply grateful for. So it's about 130 at this right now.
How much was the grant that we provided for you?
The grant was a $300,000 grant to employ 30 additional people and to transform recreation centers in the areas with the highest rates of violence.
Now, are you reapplying for the grant? And then also I have to ask the question, Now, I know in terms of this budget process, it seems like we would increase your budget, right, as opposed to going to the community expansion grants, because most of the time, and Council President, we should probably have a more longer conversation about this. Community expansion grants really were supposed to be for outside organizations, but somehow what the administration would do is they would cut organizations that are already in our budget process, right, and then supplement it with the community expansion grant funding, as opposed to just giving the increase now, right, as opposed to taking it from another pot of money. But I guess the question I want to get down to, Jane, is in terms of moving forward, have you begun getting any assurances, or are you going to reapply, obviously, for expansion grant part 2, since this is the number one issue that we're dealing with? And then also, is there integration with the roadmap to a safer Philadelphia? Because I would think that the work that you're doing and the work that we're doing as a city in terms of the roadmap goes hand in hand. I would think that would be the case, that you would be meeting with the administration, probation, parole, DA, police commissioner, Office of Behavioral Health, district attorney's office, somehow be a part of that strategy to help reduce gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. Can you give us some insight into that and the additional funding requests moving forward?
We would love to reapply for that grant if we're allowed to. I wasn't sure. I was going to check actually soon. I was going to check because I'm hoping, and we're really hoping that we can. And secondly, we would love to be more involved in the strategy of, and be part of larger group meetings. I think we'd have a big appetite for that. And thirdly, we do work with like the courts or the DA, but I think that sometimes I think we're too alone in it, and we'd like to be a greater part of a cohort. And I think Ricky and Dwan have so many connections, and it's helpful to us and connecting us to the larger ecosystem. But, we partner with probably 100 organizations every year. The fact that we're part public, part private, we see ourselves as sort of part of the city. So we like that. We'd like to be a good team player.
And with additional funding, how many people do you think you'll be able to serve?
Well, we would
justice.
I mean, we would love to be able.
So, if you had additional 200K, 250K, how many more additional people would you be able to serve?
We could serve, I would say, close to 50. Jenny, would you agree with me? I think it would be good. It would be substantial. It would be substantial.
Okay. Awesome. And then, so I know my time is ticking. A couple other things. I know I asked about the types of individuals who are coming into the restorative justice program, but let's just continue to focus on highlighting the success stories. But there has been studies that talked about beautification and addressing the issue of blight, the broken window theory, and how it has an impact on the issue of violence and gun violence. Have you done any research, right, or are you a part of any data collection efforts that looks at the coalition between beautification and gun violence? Because I know you're in all areas. You're definitely in South Philadelphia. You're definitely in North Philadelphia, so you're where you're supposed to be. But just want to get an idea of, have you even worked with the city with that type of research, or your own research that shows when Mural goes up and we do beautification projects, here's the beautification and the impact that it's having positively on that particular community?
Well, I would say we worked with the Yale School of Medicine as part of Porchlight, but they also looked at the impact of the murals. And what they saw was a great sort of what they call collective efficacy, that after we do something in a community, the community is ready for more change. They are psychologically primed for more. And so we started layering in more services as a result of the study. They also looked at the impact on individuals, as many of there was a high percentage of individuals who felt like they were just going to be living a life with trauma forever, and that being part of this program connected them to the larger world, connected them to treatment, connected them to a path out. So we have data from the Yale School of Medicine. Now, to be clear, that was funded through the Robert Wood Johnson grant. And I just want to go back to one thing. I want to clear this for the record for everybody, that when Jenny quoted a number for restorative justice, that's city and private funds, the million, the 1 point. The city is about 4 or 5. the city's about half of that. The rest we rate.
Okay, got you. So what, roughly 500,000? Roughly?
Correct.
Okay, I'm glad you made that clarification, because it's the difference between private. Today we're talking about public and what we can do on our end in terms of supporting you from the city standpoint. Well, listen, Jane and your team, Jenny, who I saw the other day as well down in South Philadelphia, and Norma, I thank you for your hard work, and I just want to encourage, commend, and empower you to keep on fighting a good fight. There's no other pressing issue that we're dealing with right now besides the issue of gun violence. And some neighborhoods are doing great, other neighborhoods aren't doing so great. But until we all feel great and safe coming outside of our houses and feeling a sense of opportunities that we can follow our dreams in the city, then all the work we'll be doing is for naught if we don't feel the same across the board. So I just want to personally just thank you and your team. And thank you, Vian, as well.
Thank you so much, Councilmember. And please know that we're unwavering in our commitment to work with all of you on public safety issues.
Thank you.
Information flowing and keeps us in front of mind for people probably is helpful.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mark Squilla. I just had a couple questions. I know Council President may be a little delayed there. So, Jane, thank you, first of all, for your testimony, always for your great work in mural arts. As we move forward with the budget, and Councilmember Johnson, I think, hit the nail on the head. You know, I always say mural arts, people say, you know, you're giving money just for murals. Not that art isn't important. It is very important, and murals are very important. But it's all the other work that you do that sometimes gets unrecognized. As we look at that budget, what do you, and I'm not putting you on the spot here, but to grow that program where we give people opportunities to feel good about themselves, to be great public citizens, what else can we do as a city to make sure that these programs continue to grow and have access for the people who really need them the most?
Well, thank you. I mean, I want to say in the 5-year plan, it looks like we go down. So I'm like baffled. So resources would help, because, you know, when you give mural arts resources, it means that it helps us get additional resources outside the city structure, because I'm never one to just rely on city government. We know this. So we try to be very practical. And knowing that all of you are here for resources, for connections, that really means a lot. But I think our work in education, behavioral health, and criminal justice, that's some of the most important work that we can be doing. And those areas, we're seeing good results. We have the data to prove it. And so what our goal is to strategically grow those programs over the next 3 to 5 years. That's what that is our goal. And we're, you know, I wouldn't be here and be so passionate if I was not seeing good results from this. But it's like we're on to something, and we just need to not look back.
Well, I would agree with you wholeheartedly. You are definitely on something, and I think that we see it as a big advantage to our communities who are engaged in that aspect of mural arts. And so we need to do our part too, and maybe we could work looking at how the 5-year plan works out. I know it's a year-by-year budget, and we're always out there, always looking to tweak just 1 year, but knowing how important this issue doesn't go away in 1 year. We didn't get here in 1 year, and it will not go away in 1 year. So I'm going to come back with more questions, but I know Councilmember Thomas had a couple questions to see if he's still available.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to take a couple minutes to ask a few questions. Most, like my colleagues, most of my questions have already been answered. So I don't want to be too repetitive as it relates to the I appreciate the information around all the different programs that come under mural arts and the great work that's being done. I appreciate the dialogue around the possibility of expansion and things like that. I know that the administration proposed a number less than $3 million for mural arts. My only question, hypothetically speaking, if we were to say, Jane, give you guys $4 million, instead of the proposed number, which is a little less than $3 million. Just off the top of your head, what type of effort do you think we would see as it relates to mural arts, and what outcomes could the city of Philadelphia expect if we were to put, hypothetically speaking, $4 million from our side into mural arts? Because it's my understanding that your budget is pretty big, and a lot of your money comes outside of the money you get from city government. So I'm just wondering, if we were to invest more at the amount of about $4 million, what would that do for the work that you're already doing right now? And what would we be able to expect?
Right. I mean, very good point. If we relied solely on our city money, honestly, we would not be doing very much. So the reason we do so much and we're such busy bees is because we're constantly leveraging. As I said, we raise $4 for every dollar the city gives us. It's probably higher. It's probably closer to $5. So I would say this is what we would do. First of all, we would expand the Guild program and the Women's Reentry program immediately. We would expand Color Me Back. We would create a commercial corridor initiative, and I've been talking to several council members, Councilmember Parker in particular, about this, because this is perfect. This is perfect opportunities for the Guild, because we can do facade improvement. We can be doing some carpentry. We could be doing painting. We can revitalize properties. We can do public art. It's just a fountain of opportunity, and we layer in skill building as we're transforming corridors. We have data, Councilmember Thomas, that says that projects by Mural Arts. Oh, I'm sorry. There's my dog. Sorry. Projects by Mural Arts increase on commercial corridors, increase property values and retail sales. Sorry. I knew this dog was going to bark at some point. And so we have data that shows if we hit the ground running along commercial corridors, then what we can do is we can actually see real impact for the corridor, for the businesses, and for the young people who are working on the transformation. So commercial corridor revitalization, we would increase the Guild, increase the Women's Reentry program, increase Color Me Back, and I don't want to forget this, community murals is the heartbeat of this city. It is our work is the autobiography of Philadelphia. You know, with the project we're doing with some of your constituents on the Black Ballroom, the one we're doing about youth voice. I mean, these are important projects that speak to Philadelphians, and we would absolutely expand that. And I'd invest in restorations because we have a world-renowned collection and we need to protect it. It would not take me long. If you gave me 24 hours to come up with a plan, we'd have a detailed plan of action for you on your desk.
So maybe your office can provide that, because I think one of the things that I've been pushing and promoting throughout the course of the was when departments and offices and agencies are asking for more money, I've really been making sure that we've getting into the nuts and the bolts as it relates to how those dollars will be spent. We have an opportunity here with some surplus of money to put us in a position to really make sure that we have a phenomenal economic recovery. And of course, that's going to invest in traditional things. But I think we need to be innovative in how we invest this money as well, too. We talked a lot about supporting small businesses and making sure people understand that Philadelphia is open for business. And I think the idea of putting more dollars and resources not into the art spaces to deal with just criminal justice reform stuff like programs like the Guild and things like that, but also putting us in a position where we see more of a collaborative effort between the work you're doing and some of our business corridors across the city. I heard Councilmember Parker talking about 5th Street with you. That is a phenomenal corridor that I know would be able to benefit a great deal from a coordinated beautification effort. So with that, I just wanted to put the emphasis on that, and also go on the record as being a huge supporter of mural arts and the work that's being done. And, just really want to push the administration to put a little more money into this work. Because I think that the outcomes will be significant and they will touch multiple areas, not just arts and culture space, but issues related to business, issues related to criminal justice, the entire gamut. So thank you. I think Council President or Mr. Chair Squilla, I appreciate the opportunity to make my remarks, and Jane and your entire team, thank you for all you do.
Oh, one other thing I just wanted to say, in art education, we did get a cut 2 years ago. It was a pretty deep cut, $200,000, but we've tried to be tenacious. We have a waiting list of schools that want our work. So we're serving 2,000 kids. I would also pump some money into art education so we could be more responsive to schools that want services.
Well, thank you. And Jane, if you can get that to the council president as it relates to what you would do with a $4 million budget, so we can have an idea of what type of increase we can see and the impact it can have on Philadelphians, we would definitely appreciate that on our end. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Jane, and thank you to the entire Mural team. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas, and thank you and Councilmember Richardson also for your leadership last year on really working with the arts communities to help them along the way. There was a transfer ordinance. And Jane, real quick, did you ever receive the transfer ordinance dollars in the budget from last year?
No. No, I know. I hope it's coming soon. I'm keeping hope alive. I have hope.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, point of information.
Go ahead.
So not only did Mural Arts not receive their dollars, none of the arts organizations that we negotiated for funding for last year throughout the course of the transfer ordinance received the dollars that they were promised. So I just wanted to put that out there, not just for Mural Arts, but for the other arts-based organizations as well. And also just want to assure that in the midst of our advocacy, we understand that the money that was promised last year should not be a part of the budget this year. So again, it's our understanding that most of the organizations, I believe the Marian Anderson Museum is the only place that have gotten their dollars so far. But we are working and continuing to coordinate with the administration to make sure that that happens and is not a part of this year's budget negotiation. So I just wanted to make sure that that point of information was clarified.
Thank you, Councilmember Thomas. That's an important point, and I'm not sure why, since that has been agreed on, why that is not there, but that's something we'll work out with the administration as we move forward. Councilmember
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, point of information, this is Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. I think it's appropriate with the line of questioning posed by my colleague, you, Mr. Chair, and also Councilmember Thomas, that we receive a response on the record during this hearing from the administration as to why those dollars have not been sent to those organizations, and a surety that it would not be included in this year's budget process. Can we have a response from the administration regarding that matter? Thank you.
Councilwoman, this is Orlando Rendon, Deputy Managing Director for the Cluster Services. I will make sure that we have a response available to you.
Thank you, Orlando. Go ahead, Councilmember.
My apologies. For the record, can we have that in writing to Council President and all the members of Council that the dollars will be expended as soon as possible and that it will not count against any of the budget negotiations for this year? Thank you.
Well said. Thank you, Councilmember Richardson. Councilmember Green?
Thank you. And I want to thank Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for that commentary, because that kind of dovetails some of the questions that I was going to ask. In particular, Councilmember Johnson was being somewhat politically correct. But what has happened from my observation with the budget process is that the administration, either from the Defenders Association, gives them $0, or for Mural Arts does not give them the dollars that they need, especially considering the work they're doing from restorative justice and public safety, and we know the impact it has in our communities. Or the next department is going to testify now, the Free Library of Philadelphia, where that staff has hardly any dollars to really operate our free library system. So my question for Ms. Golden is that I know that your budget from FY22 was $3.4 million and is proposed for FY23 of $2.5 million. If those dollars are not restored, what impact will that have to Mural Arts and the work that you do? Jane, you're muted.
Sorry, my dog was barking. It means we serve less people, it means we do less projects. It means we have to say no to more people. And, people could say, oh, well, what's the big deal? But it is a big deal. It's a big deal if we're not serving more kids in art education, or Color Me Back can't take on more constituents, or the Guild, we have to, not see as many people in the Guild. And even the projects are beacons of hope, and our city needs that now more than ever. So we have to we do less. I mean, we mislead people because we are long distance runners, and we run and try to be really creative about raising money. And we're totally understanding that the city has many, many needs, but we also know what we can do, and we can't go where we'd like to go if we don't have the funds.
Jane, I'll say this on your behalf. Well, I won't say this on your behalf, but I will say this statement that, you are incredibly modest, and you basically say, well, we'll take whatever we get, but what you receive is not what you're due. When you think about the work that you've done historically in the city of Philadelphia, and every year you're basically robbing Peter to pay Paul, just to help beautify the city of Philadelphia, help provide people with opportunities to come out of or return into society with a craft, with an opportunity to earn income. You've been continually creative in the work that you've done with the little resources that you get from the city of Philadelphia, in spite of the dollars that you receive from many other funders beyond the city of Philadelphia. And when we think about the fact that we received $1.4 billion from the American Rescue Plan, dollars that council allocated last year in the budget process that still has not been spent, I really think it's unfortunate that year in and year again, that as we go through the budget process, basically council is the one that has to come up with additional dollars to make organizations like the Mural Arts Program whole, because it's not put in the budget initially. And so I think it's unfortunate negotiating tactic that we've been dealing with for a number of years. And it really is unfortunate that you're put into this situation where council has to come up with the dollars to put you in a position to do the work that you're doing, when you should be getting even more dollars for the great work that you're doing. So thank you, Mr. Squilla, Councilmember Squilla, and thank you, Ms. Golden, for all the work that you're doing on behalf of the citizens of the city of Philadelphia.
Thank you so much. And I want you to know there's cities across this country where mayors and council are allocating resources to these cities based on our model. We had 5 cities visit. We have a Mural Arts Institute Saturday night, and you should have heard how people were singing the praises of Philadelphia. So honestly, we are making our city really look good, and public art is flourishing across this country right now, in no small part thanks to Mural Arts. And you do, and thank you for mentioning, I am very modest. I do not have a big ego. I have a lot of ever-present angst, but I want to tell you, I'm really proud on behalf of Philadelphia, but we could do more.
Shame that you become an international symbol, but we as a city are not valuing you at the level that we should by making the investment that we can. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Green, and well said. And I know Jane is always so calm and petite and very quiet when she makes her comments, so it's always exciting to see her get up and jump up and down once in a while. But Councilmember Brooks, I know you had a couple questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair Squilla, and thank you so much, Jane. Like, I'm always excited to come out to the various projects that you invited me to, and not just the artwork. I want to talk about the programmatic pieces of it, whether it was the work around restorative justice with young people, then it was a separate program I attended with women. I think it was in a reentry program, and just the stories and the connections that were made as being part of that. So the artwork you're doing is not just to beautify the city, but it's to, secure and stabilize communities and help folks feel like they're a part of it. So I just want to thank you for the multiple projects that I have been to visit, and it continues to bring me joy. But my question is, can you tell me a little bit more about this Angela Ortiz Our Market project and its significance? Because I see it was a huge amount of money that was cut for that particular project. And part 2 of that, will those cuts of that project affect your ability to leverage private dollars moving forward?
I hope not. No, I think we're going to stay on a mission. And thank you for bringing that up, because the other thing I think that Mural Arts does is we support dreams of artists. There are so many artists in this city that have gotten like sort of a national and some of them an international reputation because they got their start with us. It's like fertile ground for artists. And that is, we cannot minimize that because a lot of cities don't have that, and there's not a lot of support for individual artists across the country. But here in Philly, there is. And so for that, Michelle Ortiz has had this long-standing dream to really lift up the cultural like diversity in the market. And so she wants to have processions, poetry, public art, and we've already started this, working with the vendors to really bring their stands into the 21st century. So again, everybody, this is economic development. How does an artist think about a commercial corridor and really lift it up and change it? So Councilmember Brooks, we are on a mission to be undaunted, unstoppable, and make this dream come to fruition.
Thank you. That concludes my questions.
Oh, and I also want to thank you for your support of our 13th Amendment project. It is gaining momentum across the country.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure working on that.
Council President, Madam Majority Leader. Whip, Deputy Whip.
I'm there. I apologize. Sorry about that. Thank you all. Thank you for those questions. Is there any other questions? I know hopefully Orlando will be able to get that information to the President and Chair. Is there any other questions that we have from anybody? I see we have the library next. So if there's no other questions from any of the other members of council, Jane, we really appreciate your testimony. Thank you and your staff so much for all you do for Philly. And hopefully we'll continue this great work.
Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Bye, everyone.
All right, see you later.
Bye-bye.
All right, Bob, I don't know if you want to transition right over into the library and have them testify.
Yes, the next person from the administration to testify is the President and Director of the Free Library of Philadelphia, Kelly Richards.
Sit that down.
Welcome,
hello, everyone.
Welcome, Kelly. If you just
can you hear me?
Name for the record, and then
Kelly
yes,
Richards. Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library. All right, good day, President Clark and members of City Council. I'm Kelly Richards, President and Director of the Free Library. And joining me today are Jen McGuire Wright, our Interim Associate Director, and Sade Ole Ni Pekun, our Chair of the Library Board of Trustees.
Morning.
Here she is. We'll be sharing this setup here in my office. I'm pleased to provide testimony on the Free Library's Fiscal Year 2023 operating budget. This budget will advance literacy, guide learning, and inspire curiosity. As this is my first hearing with the City Council as President and Director of the Free Library, it's also the first for my team here today too. I want to share that the staff and our Board of Trustees were very quick to inform me that the $10.4 million increase proposed by the mayor's fiscal year 23 budget will be the most significant increase the library has received in recent memory. The genuine excitement was palpable. With this funding, we can accomplish stabilizing 5-day service throughout the city and doing more for the communities of Philadelphia. Our residents will visit a library and will find an open door. They will be able to access resources, borrow materials, participate in programming on a consistent and stable 5-day service, whatever those 5 days may be. Our mission is to advance literacy, guide learning, and inspire curiosity. We have the resources and funding to focus on this mission. We can provide the services to the public which can uplift people out of poverty, create safer and healthier neighborhoods, increase opportunities, and provide hope. The proposed increase will allow us to create 221 full-time jobs with benefits in addition to promotional opportunities for our current staff members. Additional staff means that our neighborhood libraries will be open for normal schedule of 7 to 8 hours of service per day. The proposed increase will also enable us to provide training for staff, onboarding new staff, providing professional development opportunities, and offering crucial diversity, equity, and inclusion training. This budget will also provide us with an increase in funding for programming. Kids, teens, adults, families will be able to enjoy programs designed to engage and uplift our communities. We recognize that our youth need safe spaces. I want to say that one more time. We recognize that our youth need safe spaces to learn, play, and grow. One of the many areas where it is crucial for the library to offer consistent service is our after-school programming. During the year, the Literacy, Enrichment, and After-School Program, better known as LEAP, hires after-school leaders for each library to lead programming and activities Monday through Friday after school. LEAP is a drop-in program that does not require pre-registration, so all children, teens are welcome anytime. LEAP provides homework help for students in K through 12th grades, as well as exciting literacy and learning enrichment activities. In addition, we will continue to welcome youth for programming during the Summer of Wonder program at all branches. We offer summer literacy programming and participating community summer camps throughout the city, including at parks and recreation sites and at OST programs funded through the Office of Children and Families. This literacy program includes staff visiting camps and modeling fun, literacy engagement with children. For example, using read aloud books with activities, ways used leveled up books in literacy games. Our libraries are comprised of staff working in their roles to serve and engage their communities. Municipal guards maintain cleanliness and provide a safe environment. Library assistants add new materials to the collection, shelve items, and assist patrons with circulation desk function, such as creating library cards and checking items in and out. Our digital resource specialists, they help patrons with computer needs and offer instructional classes. Librarians, all of whom are required to have a Master's of Library Science degree, provide reference assistance, conduct outreach and visits, and coordinate programming targeted to the interests of their communities. Our library staff work together as a team to make sure the needs of their communities are met. As I end, I want to say during this critical time of gun violence in the city and emphasize how crucial it is for residents to access engaging and dynamic spaces that do not require a fee or a purchase, where their needs and wants are being met. This is especially important for the city, and we plan to utilize this funding for the fiscal year 23 to ensure we are open. And I want to say that again, to ensure we are open consistently with resources, programs, and services. The residents of this great city deserve nothing less, and we are unwavering in our commitment to provide that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Much appreciated. I'm just looking now to see the list of questions that we have.
We're going to be working on this by committee with my staff here today. I just want you to know this is 3.5 months of me being here.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Councilmember Johnson, is that the question for next? Okay, maybe that's the next one. Is there any other staff members that have questions for the free library?
Yes, Mr. Chair. This is Councilmember Gilmore Richardson. I was first in the queue for the free library. And so I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Richards, for your testimony. Thank you for your commitment to the Free Library of Philadelphia. And I'll say welcome officially to the city of Philadelphia and to this budget process. As you may or may not be aware, I worked at the Free Library of Philadelphia in high school when I was in 11th and 12th grade as a teen leadership assistant with the LEAP program at Winfield Library, where we all just visited recently to see their new autism collection. And I wanted to thank my colleague, Councilmember Green, for that resolution that was co-sponsored by my colleague and our district member, Councilmember Jones, and I, around the work that's happening at Winfield Library. We love Winfield Library, and in fact, my children and I visit the library at least 1 to 2 times a week, as much as we can, and particularly over the summer months. And I listened very intently to your testimony, and you talked about the proposed increase in revenue for library, which is one of the largest in a very long time. You talked about the need to have training and onboarding and professional development and diversity, equity, and inclusion training for your team, and that the budget for programming will be designed to engage and uplift communities. And I heard you talk about LEAP, but you just started 3.5 months ago. And so there's a lot of work for you to do. And so, my understanding is, and I heard you say this, that this is also the first budget for your team.
Yes.
So with that, can you talk to us about your team, your leadership structure? Do you have all the key executive positions filled at the Free Library? And if you could just talk to us about what your proposed executive team would look like, how many individuals that would be, if all of those positions, particularly the key executive positions, have been filled, and if not, what positions have not been filled and which positions do you need to get filled, and do you have the budget to fill those positions?
I knew she was. No?
Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That's a good question. When I was onboarded at my very first day, I found out I walked into an office when the whole executive team was gone. So I came into a situation that's kind of unusual for library directors. You come in and there's usually some institutional knowledge from the executive team to kind of help you navigate those first few weeks. But that whole team was gone prior to me coming on board. We had one executive who actually was new too, who handles our diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we were both new and helping one another find the restroom.
So point of information quickly to that, you're telling me that when you walked into this position, you only had one member of your executive team?
That's correct.
And how many members of the executive team are you supposed to have in total?
The understanding based on city is 10.
Okay, and so out of 10 executive positions, there was only one executive in the office when you arrived here in Philadelphia.
Correct, and that person was new too.
Okay, and so let me ask you a quick question. I want to go back to the other questions I asked. In this proposed budget, are all 10 of those positions budgeted for? Because I heard everything you talked about. You talked about LEAP, training and onboarding, budgeting for programming, supporting libraries, staffing initiatives. How do you do that without an executive team?
It's going to be tough. It's been tough now. I have been working with our chiefs or mid-level managers, I would say, working with them. They've got a lot of tenure in the organization, but they have their own jobs. But they've been managing up in order to help me run this system. The interim director is who had been the interim associate was promoted 2 levels up, but that's a temporary promotion up to work with me and help me move the organization forward. So, based on your question, how many is budgeted? There in the fiscal 23 budget, there is none budgeted in the fiscal year 23. This year, we have the resources where we're going to fill 2 of those positions, and those resources were released for the libraries to utilize in January.
Okay. So, and pardon me for the interruption, but with those 2, where would that get you? Because this is what I'm trying to, and I'm seeking to understand.
Okay.
Is if we are seeking to do a whole bunch, we need an executive team in place to help you effectuate the work you are seeking to undertake. And so with the 2, where would that get you?
The 2 plus the executive that was here already, within days after my hire, I actually had to start helping the system prior to even coming on the board officially. Because the executive team was leaving. So I was working 2 jobs. There was no way around it. I had to help. So we managed to work with the board to bring on a fiscal director. So that position came on. So we've got a fiscal director. And the first one we've had to help move our finance to a pay from just more of a accounts payable to more fiscal responsibility in our finance department. So we brought on a fiscal director. We had the DE&I director. And the 2 positions that have been freed up, that'll be coming on. So we'll have 6. But the 4 that we need, in addition to that, are not in the budget. Okay.
And so for my clarity, if you had the full 10, and I hear the bell, so you're missing 4. You're missing 4 or 5 in your key executive positions. There is nothing in the proposed budget to help you address that staffing issue from a leadership perspective in order to effectuate some of the things that we know we want to see within the library system. And so that's not where I was planning to go with my questions, but I'm certainly happy that we started there. I will circle back on the second round because I did hear the clock, and I will honor the time with my additional questions. But Mr. Chair, I think this is something that we must look into because we cannot, effectuate the work that we are seeking to see within the Free Library of Philadelphia if Mr. Richards does not have the full complement of his executive team and individuals in place to do that work. And so I think that's an important distinction we need to make with this process. I appreciate the administration for the proposed revenue. However, there is no way to effectuate that work without an appropriate and proper executive team in place. I will circle back during the second round for my next line of questions. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Council Member. I appreciate the questions, and we'll get back to you in the second round. Council Member Gautier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I hope people can hear me. There's a very lively party happening in Dilworth. Welcome, Director Richards.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed our conversations to date, and I'm very excited to see you revitalize our libraries coming out of COVID. Second, I'm very pleased to see such a significant increase to the Free Library's budget in FY23. It is long overdue. I know that we all agree that libraries provide our city's residents with safe spaces, both for kids and adults to learn and thrive, and increasing the Free Library's funding allows for these institutions to continue as places where our communities can gather and grow. That said, it's clear to me that our libraries, just like our rec centers, need even more funding. And so I view this proposal from the mayor as a floor and not a ceiling. And with that, I'd like to run through a series of questions. First, the 5-year plan and your testimony refer to stable 5-day service at all branches. Can you clarify for us what stable 5-day service looks like? So, for example, will all libraries be open Monday to Friday? Will some be open Tuesday through Saturday? Can you just offer some clarification?
Sure. 5-day stable service is the minimum of 7 to 8 hours at each one of our locations, 5 days a week. Saturdays, we are working right now, talking with our staff and our unions to determine what that Saturday schedule will look like. When we were in our COVID protocol of schedules, we went to Monday through Friday, basically almost like a 9 to 5, or some branches were a little later, in order to provide that service to the citizens during that real critical time of that concern for COVID. And as we're navigating our way out of that now, trying to get back to what this new normal will be, we're looking at what that weekend schedule or that Saturday, how that Saturday schedule will look like. But we are very committed to a Saturday schedule, but we want to build our capability up so that it's stable. And it's not a schedule that is like where we are now, where we're closing about 10 branches a day. We don't want to do that.
So are you saying that the 5 days could include a Saturday, or are you saying...
It's possible, yes.
Okay, you're still deciding that.
Yeah, we're working on that, on how that would look, how that Saturday schedule would look. We all are committed to that, all up and down the organization, to a Saturday. We just don't know how that would look.
Thank you. The library's proposed budget includes $8.4 million in additional funding for the stable 5-day service. It looks like the library has a very large amount of hiring to do at central departments, branches, and regional libraries in order to implement stable 5-day service. In light of that, by what date should we start to see that stable 5-day service at our neighborhood libraries?
Oh, wow. We're going to be working with the Department of Human Resources and the library's Human Resources department. We're working on a strategy of what that actually will look like in that particular time frame. But it'd be really premature right now if I gave you a time frame on that and don't follow through. But I'll tell you, we are committed to it.
Okay. How will you prioritize which neighborhood libraries open for 5-day service a week? For example, I would suggest focusing on the areas of our city that are most under siege from gun violence and reallocating library employees to open these neighborhood libraries first. What do you think about that?
Well, I'll tell you what, that is a commitment of mine personally, okay? But I'll tell you what we have to do is we've got to work with the the Department of Human Services, and we're going to have to look at our Human Resource Department and how we can move people through that civil service process and how that onboarding process is going to work. And at this point, in my tenure here, that's new to me, and I'm hearing that takes time, and the level of staff that comes into the system. So it's going to be, a series of checks that we're going to have to look at. So I can't really answer that thoroughly at this moment. It'll have to be something I'll have to get back with you on.
Okay. In FY22, there were 298 branch library employees budgeted, but as of 11/28, only 247 of these positions were filled. Is that an accurate number today?
Let me see. Danielle, can you help me with that? I don't have that figure in front of me. I'm talking with our human resources director right now.
Okay, and if she can you, while she's here and on, can you also just expound upon the challenges the library is facing when it comes to hiring and what you will do to overcome these obstacles to fill the over 300 positions that are vacant coming into FY23?
Yes, I can answer that. The library's has been working closely with the city's Office of Human Resources to plan for hiring these positions. We're establishing, we're really working on our priorities right now. One of our first priorities would be to hire additional staff for our human resource department to assist with the onboarding and to manage our staff training needs. So we have to work close. This is going to be a heavy lift. We're committed to doing it, but we're going to have to reach out for help from the Department of Human Resources, from the city's Office of Human Resources. Danielle, can you repeat that question again, Councilwoman, about the number of staff?
Sure.
Danielle, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. In FY22, there were 298 branch library employees budgeted, but as of November the 28th, we saw that only 247 of those positions were filled. Can you give us sort of an accurate count today?
So thank you for your question. Actually, I would have to get back to you on the specific numbers that you mentioned. I do know that we are working to finalize our existing vacancies, filling our existing vacancies within this fiscal year prior to going into FY23 with the big lift of the 221. And we're definitely committed to doing that. We're working on a strategy around coordinating with the Office of Human Resources, as well as with our Human Resources Department around our the time frame of the eligibility list and the timing of when we would be able to actually start the onboarding process for the various positions. So pretty much we're just taking the time, prioritizing based on where our vacancies are, putting them in a Microsoft project and coordinating with trying to make sure that we manage it appropriately, as well as considering the priorities around the positions that we need to bring on and complete as soon as possible.
Hi, this is I'm sorry, can you please state your full name?
Sure, Danielle Henderson.
Thank you so much.
It would be helpful to get an accurate count of the number of vacancies, if that could be something that you all follow up with.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Member. Next set of questions, we have Council Member Gim.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. And welcome, Mr. Walker, to Philadelphia. We are looking forward to your leadership and partnership on this very important issue. And many of us, including myself, have made the funding and the expansion of hours for the Free Library our top priority for this budget session. So we look forward to working on that with you. During our budget process a year ago, the Free Library provided testimony stating that the $2.4 million increase Council had provided in the fiscal year 2022 budget would enable the Free Library to provide stable 5-day service. So the proposed budget for FY23, as you know, represents a $13 million increase over what we approved last year. a significant increase, as you noted, the largest increase in not only the library's most recent history, but more than likely the largest investment in any city agency, in terms of year-to-year increases across the board in the city of Philadelphia. But I think we're going to push a little bit to make sure that we want to see growth and delivery of services that is significant. I think we want to address concerns and problems, which I think we've all are very familiar with and laid out very clearly. I want to reiterate Councilmember Gautier's request that we should know what the vacancy rate is. Like, this is one of the most important things that the library needs to have a strong handle on. So we'll be looking for that kind of information. But, I also want to open by saying I do not want our bar to be so low. It is completely unacceptable for us to have a library system that is not open anywhere on weekends. It's unusual to have a library system in which we're not discussing hours that not range 5 days a week, but actually 7 days a week. And in fact, one of the concerns that we have is that if the additional $13 million increase in cost and a 30% boost to your budget only gets us to where we were not even a year ago, or basically doesn't get us, has not pushed us in any advance. I am concerned about what your current projection is for the cost that would be needed to expand to 6-day service and again to 7-day service. So, I want to start by asking a few questions. Could you explain clearly why you believe the projected cost to provide 5-day service has increased so significantly in the course of the last year? And I want to draw a distinction because many of these positions that are currently vacant are allocated already within the library's $42.5 million current budget. So it's not like, unless you're looking to expand hours or expand staffing or see significant increases in other places. That's what I'd like to hear from you.
Well, I want to start by saying I don't want to go too far in the past and try to explain why things happen, but I would say that I think the request was a little unrealistic. We were asking in the past for the minimum number of staff to open each location. And not only that, we were asking for the minimum number to keep the doors open. So that meant if anyone took time off, anybody, that branch was going to close. Or if a security guard wasn't there, the branch was going to close. So we were asking, from what I've seen, the minimum number to open each one of those locations, and not even including what support staff we needed in order to maintain the services for IT and delivery, the mailroom, our rock where we sort all of our books and materials and get them all over the city of Philadelphia. It could take a month for somebody to get a book.
Yeah,
so a lot of that was that was the issue.
Mr. Walker, just for clarity. So the library pre-pandemic in 2019 operated at roughly 5 days a week. Are you saying that it was inaccurate to say that it operated 5 days a week in the years prior to 2019?
We were not open 5 days a week at every location. We were closing for lack of staff, and we have been for 10 years.
So could you share a little bit about, I know Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson talked a little bit about executive salaries, and I just wanted to clarify, the current library budget allocates for 6 executive salaries. You actually want to grow that to 10, is that correct? So you want to add additional executive salaries? Okay.
Yes.
And then what is the total portion of the $8.8 million in Class 100 increase to salaries would actually go towards that executive salary increase?
For the executive salary increase, if the request is granted, it would be you're talking just the extra staff for the increase, or what it is now?
There's an $8.8 million class 100 increase.
There's none in the current.
I understand, but in the proposed budget.
Yeah, there's none in the proposed budget.
Okay, so
there's no increases in the proposed budget.
Within the 56 million.
Correct.
My understanding is that there's an $8.8 million increase for class 100 staff.
Oh, for class 100, not for the executive level.
9.7 increase, and none
of it is for the executive level.
Okay, and then what would be the amount of the proposed additional executive salary increases?
It would be 675.
675,000 or 6.75 million?
No, 675,000.
Yes. Okay, thank you. And then, yes.
Marissa Waxman, Budget Director. If I may, I'd like to be able to follow up and do some clarifications. There are increases to the administration program in the director's office for the FY23 proposed budget. There's an increase of 3 positions. While not everything requested, there are increases, and we can follow up to the chair with the information about what the additional funding and number of positions are proposed for FY23.
Okay, that would help because
Point of information. Point of information.
Let's carry forward with this.
We're not talking
about point of information.
Councilmember Richardson.
Thank you. My apologies, Mr. Chair. I just quickly wanted to, please do not take this away from Councilmember Ginn's time, as I did hear the bell. But what I wanted to clarify while Marissa was here is if you could also give us the information over the last 5 years prior to Mr. Richards being here for how much was budgeted for the executive team. Can you go back? Because I think it's important to make that distinction. I'm astonished to find out that he literally only walked into a staff of 1. And so, it's a part of the process of us staffing up, not just on the executive level, but further down to have that information. So can you just give us some historical data and background so that we as council members understand what that looked like year over year previously? Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councilmember Ginn. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you. And, I do believe for clarity, Director Richards, you had said that you walked into a staff with only 1, but that's because other people had left. It's not because you've only allocated 1 staff member.
No, they just weren't here.
Yes, they aren't there. So you do have an allocation of a budget. You are seeking to expand that allocation as well. Is that correct? And Marissa, you'll get back to us on what the expansion looks like.
The positions that I want to fill, there is no funding for them. The positions that are available, those positions are posted. So the positions I believe Marissa is talking about are the positions of this year now that is posted, including mine. And what I'm saying for next year, there is no new. The 4 new positions that we requested is not in that budget.
And it's not part of the 56 million or the $13 million increase. Is that correct?
Correct. The 4 new ones that we're asking for.
So we'll clarify that with Ms. Waxman. And then just to close out this section, what if this is your projection for 5-day-a-week service? What is your projection for the cost to expand to 6-day-a-week service and then ultimately to 7-day-a-week service?
We will get back to you on what the cost for 6-day service is. We were just so I can get those figures for you, but we can get back to you on what the cost would be. Okay.
And I'll follow up in the second round, but sure. I just want to underscore again that this council body is invested in our libraries. There's nothing more important to us, but we have been struggling on library access, library services, library staffing, which will be the focus of my next round for far too long, and we want to make sure that we are, as we're investing, that we are seeing a clear path towards deliverables. And look, I know how much your agency in particular has gone through the ringer on leadership upheavals, on real stress through the pandemic and other work. But we are here to be partners with you. We just would like to have clarity on the budget, on what we're moving towards, and to ensure that these things actually do get delivered in a timely way. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Councilwoman, I could add this on top of the mayor's budget request for us. If we move to 6-day with the 5-day stable, that 6-day would be about another $3.25 million on top of that.
Okay, thank you.
But that's just 9 months, though, out of the year.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Green. Councilmember Green, if you're available. If not,
thank you, Councilmember Squilla. I really didn't have questions because a lot of the questions were asked very detailed.
I apologize.
Through Councilmember Gilmore Richardson, but she asked specifically the question I had in reference to my concern that additional dollars are provided in the budget to seem like we're expanding service, but then there's not the staff budgeted to actually do that work to expand the service citywide. So I'm looking forward to see the information coming from the administration. I want to thank Mr. Richards for his work and Yeoman's work in coming into a very challenging situation, and we'll continue to press forward with what's needed for the Free Library in Philadelphia. Also want to thank our former colleague who is now chair of the Philosophy Olympic Lewis for her leadership as well. And together I know they will do all that they can to lead our free library to provide the services and the gift of reading to citizens around the city of Philadelphia. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council Member. And it's true, as we all support our libraries, these are important questions on how we greatly move the ball forward. So, Council Member Bass, are you available?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Very good, very good. So, Mr. Richards, welcome. I know we spoke before. Thank you so much for being here with us today, and looking forward to building a relationship and working with you over the next, years, decades, eons, as you're here in the city of Philadelphia. But I wanted to just go back over some of the questions that you may have already had through some of my colleagues. Because I just want to make sure that I am absolutely clear that when you came in with one other staffer, or you had one staff person available to you.
When I came in, there was one other staff person who was left. The others,
right, there was one who was left. The others were promoted within the city, is it, or were they promoted, or they left the system altogether?
That's correct.
At the city. Okay, all right. So, and those positions are available, but they need to be filled.
They need to be filled, and we request some new ones to be funded.
Okay, and okay, so I got it. I just wanted to make sure because it felt like when as you were coming in at the level of staffing. You know how some folks come in and it may seem like a setup for failure, and I don't want to categorize this as that, but it did feel as if you coming in with only one other staffer when we know that there was a full complement of an executive team that was there in place before you, it just didn't feel right. So I'm hopeful that you'll be able to get those positions filled as quickly as possible, because what happens on the executive level really does make a difference in all of the branches in our neighborhoods, and it would really make a tremendous difference. So I am hopeful that you will have those positions filled soon. Do you have any timeline in terms of what your goal is to have those positions filled, or?
We have two that are open now. And hopefully they will be filled within the next couple of months. But it's going to take some time to do the interviewing process and get them onboarded and get them going.
But the process has started then?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
For 2 positions, for 2 of the positions, that is correct.
2 out of how many?
2 out of 6.
Okay. Yep. And for the other 4, what's the plan?
That was the request.
Okay, so the other 4 are the new positions. Those are all
the other 4 are the ones we asked to be funded. That
gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Can you talk to us about? I want to go back to a question that I asked in 2021. Of course, you weren't here, but I just wanted to see if you have any information or know anything about the children's libraries which exist within the libraries themselves. So as you probably are aware, there are these, sort of little cutouts in libraries that are child designated areas. Some are very robust and have great programming and have great, they're very, very vibrant and they welcome children, and others, I'm thinking of one in particular. I won't say the name of the library, but it's extremely depressing, and it offers very little, if anything, in terms of computers or in terms of reading and research materials. So I had asked last year about the likelihood of modeling the Center City, the main branch library children's area, using that as the model to really build a much more robust system for children throughout the city. And I just wonder if anything at all has been looked at, is planned, is there anything that you all have in mind that's going to address the disparity? Because most of our kids don't get down into Center City to the main branch. Most of our kids go to the library right in the neighborhood where they can walk to, or that's near home, or that their parents can take them to. Very few children from the neighborhoods go downtown. Most of the folks who are going to the library downtown live downtown, or are coming for some particular reason. So I don't know if you have an answer for that.
Well, I can say this, Councilwoman, that's a good question. My career started in children's services. I was a big guy, reading and doing story time with youth, and that is my passion and my focus when it comes to library service. So I understand your concern in wanting to provide a more robust, an area that has science, technology, education, and math intertwined in that area. So I do understand that concern. What I'll do is I'll let our youth services head for the free library speak on that at this moment, and that's Chris.
Okay.
Here she comes to her camera.
Hello, this is Christine Caputo, Head of Youth Services for the Free Library. Thank you very much for your question, Councilwoman. Sure. That's really important to me as well. We have been able to do some upgrading of some of the children's spaces across the years at the library, and we have recently received some private money to provide some more play materials for the library, so we will be pushing out even additional resources to all libraries across the city coming soon, but always in our mind is thinking, as we're planning for upgrades to the libraries, how can we make sure the children's spaces reflect the community and the needs of the community?
Is there a minimum amount of space that's required that you all set as a requirement for a children's area? X number of square feet. Because again, sometimes it almost looks like the children's area was crammed into a corner as a last minute haphazard sort of. All right, just throw it over there. Throw some toys and books over there for kids, and that's it. But is there, like any sort of internal strategy in terms of how we attack literacy among our young people?
There's not a minimum requirement for library space, and each library is a unique space and is designed differently. So we do work to make sure that there are spaces available for children in every library. If you have offline some locations you'd like to share with us, we'd be happy to take a look at those to see what we can do.
Sure do. I sure do.
Thank you. We would appreciate that because we definitely want to make sure all children are receiving great service and locations within our library system. I would also say that we know that children are a large part of our audience who comes to the library on a regular basis, and so we really want to make sure that we're providing the best service that we can.
Okay, I think that I'll be happy to provide you with some of the locations that are coming to my mind, but I really think that citywide, there's got to just be a plan. There should be, a minimum required amount of space for our children, for their space, for, to make sure that we can provide a minimum number of computers, a minimum number of books and materials to even out what you're getting in South Philly versus Nicetown versus Winfield versus the Northeast. Everybody's getting something different. And it doesn't feel equitable, and it doesn't feel fair. So I think that the library really needs to do some research on that and come up with a plan as to how you're going to address these equities. This administration is always saying that they look at things through a racial equity lens, but when you really look at that lens, Black and brown communities always come up on the short end of the stick, and the library is no exception. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to have that addressed. I'll come back, Mr. President. I heard the bell ring. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
I see Council.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman Swiller. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Council President, and good afternoon, Director Richards, and welcome. I just have minor brief questions for you. Before the pandemic, back in 2018 and 2019, we had started some programs teaching financial literacy up at State Road for the returning citizens and at some of the free library branches for adults. In fact, I went to one in February of I think it was I don't remember, maybe it was 20, right before the pandemic hit, of adults. We had like 40 or 50 adults in the room. We were teaching financial literacy. How can we restart those programs in the libraries and at the prison? And I was taking care of the funding for it, so it's not a budget issue, okay? I just want to know who at your organization we should reach out to get this going, get it reinstated, basically. And I will say that we had 3 classes up at State Road, and the returning citizens loved those classes on financial literacy, loved them. And I want to do the same thing in the free library. So if we can start out with 3, 5, 10, whatever locations you think are appropriate, no problem. I'd love to do it in every library if we can. But let me know who you think the right person is to connect with.
You're talking to him.
Okay. All right, well, we don't have to do this now, but maybe afterwards, connect with us and let me know, and we'll take care of whatever it costs.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you, Council President, and thank you again to Director Richards. Just wanted to go back to the line of questioning relative to 5-day stable service and what that actually means to the free library system in the current context of the staffing challenges we have. How do you think we get from where we are currently to where we would need to be to adequately provide 5-day stable service throughout the entire system? What needs to happen between today and actually achieving that goal?
Good question, Councilwoman. Very good question. We need to hire 220 full-time staff positions, about 96 part-time or seasonal positions, and we want to try to do that and hire as many as we can in the first and second quarter of 2023. We need to get them onboarded. We need to work with the, Human Resource Department from the city, We are working on a strategy now to where our human resource department would be made more robust. So we're looking at a strategy to bring on our people, our HR people first. We are developing an internal strategy with our cluster leaders and the chiefs in the library to put a plan together for onboarding people as they come into the system. So we are strategically working on that overall strategy. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some support and help from my office as I build my team in order to help this process along the way. But it's going to be a big, heavy lift, historic for the free library. But it's if this happens, it's awesome, and I'm excited about it, and I'm looking forward to it. But it's going to be fun, and it's going to provide the level of service that the initial level of service that we want to provide the citizens of Philadelphia, what they're looking for out of their library. Get kids off the street, help our patrons who need to do research, those who need our specialized services because of some disability that they may have. But this will give us the opportunity to have that robust level of service to provide the programming and things that are necessary for the community. And this is just the beginning. This is.
And Mr. Richards, I
Yes.
apologize for cutting
Sure,
you off
sorry.
because we only get 4 minutes in the second round.
Sorry.
But I just wanted to state the obvious that being able to do that would enable us to provide equitable service throughout the entire system and not sort of a cherry picking of on this particular day, there's not adequate staff to open here or there. And that's what I wanted to go for. My
Yes.
second question was relative to the security guards. Now, like I stated, I worked at the library when I was in high school in the LEAP program as a TLA. And so I know sort of the inner workings of the library system very well. And so I wanted to ask you about the staffing around security personnel at each of the branches, because I remember it being a thing where we couldn't open at certain times if there was not a security personnel available to be on site. And so can you talk about that across the system relative to staffing? If you don't have that today, we can just have that information, sent to the chair. And then my next question is about the LEAP program, because that's how I started one of my first jobs in public service. Will the LEAP program be fully operational this year? And what will that look like? Will you all be hiring TLAs and supporting the work of the LEAP program, which I think is a pivotal program for young people to not only be involved with the free library system, but to give them an opportunity toward a job and hopefully a career in library service?
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yes, I can get back to specific staffing patterns per location. I can get back to you on that, but we need a security guard in our locations in order to open, and in order to meet that goal of having a safe, clean environment to help, stimulate that education and creativity. And Jenny from who handles our Jenny, can you speak to our is she there? Oh, she had to leave.
And so if you could just, I heard the bell ring, Director Richards, I heard the bell ring.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If you could just get us the information relative to the operation of the LEAP program and what that would look like this particular fiscal year, and also the plan in the proposed budget for next year, and if we will be able to have a TLA at every branch in the system. I have additional questions that I will submit in writing so that we can move forward with our day. But thank you very, very much, Kelly Richards, to your entire team and everyone at the Free Library. We support you all. We look forward to working with you and making all of what we are seeking to do possible. So thank you very, very much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
I called the wrong person. Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, CP.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Did you, Director Kelly, did you have the right person that was going to
No,
respond?
I called the wrong person. It was Chris. Sorry, I'm still getting used to everybody here. But Chris runs LEAP, and if you want her to speak, she's available.
Yeah, we'll respond to the question that the councilwoman just raised.
Okay, Chris, you can go ahead. I apologize.
No problem.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the question about LEAP. LEAP is definitely our flagship program for students after school, and we really appreciate your support of the program. We are planning this coming year with funding in the budget proposal to have an after-school leader at every location, at least one TLA at every library, hoping to hire a few additional TLAs in neighborhoods that need some more support and students are looking for jobs. So we are planning to do that, and we're looking at our hiring plan right now to make that happen.
Okay, can you please keep us updated? You all typically do, but you usually send us the information so we can get it out to the young people who are interested in working those jobs in, neighborhood libraries across the city. But thank you all so much for the work that you do. LEAP is just a phenomenal program, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to be a part of that program. Thank you so much, and thank you, Kelly Richards, to your entire team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gibb.
Thank you very much, Council President. Director Richards, thank you again. And it was helpful to hear your amount on the 6 day a week, because I think it's important for us to, get to normalization of what the goals we have are. We certainly want to emphasize the importance of having stable service. That should be the standard. And that, ultimately we're working towards 7 day a week service for our city and for our young people. I want to reiterate Councilmember Gautier's request that if you are the urgency of piloting Saturday hours, particularly at schools, particularly in neighborhoods that are deeply impacted by gun violence, our conversations with juvenile probation, with different entities, talk very frequently about the lack of activities, available safe spaces for young people, particularly on weekends. And these are, as the weather gets warmer, more people are out later, this becomes an urgent issue. So as you are taking a look at this area, I would strongly urge you to take a look at prioritizing those areas in which young people or are in communities that are deeply impacted by gun violence, because that is very critical for folks. I wanted to take some of my time to ask a little bit about staffing, because I know this is one of the central issues. It's facing everybody. I tried to tell people that, that you may have signed up as a commissioner and to be director and all of this, but all of us at this point are HR cheerleaders. We're union supporters. We're working in partnership to get staffing back up to level. So I'm curious about what specific tactics you're taking right now to address the shortages at the library system. Are you or seek out new ways to fill open positions currently?
I lost part of what you said for a second, Councilwoman.
What is the specific? What are some specific tools you're using to improve staffing at the library? So, are you looking at hiring bonuses? Are you looking at any new pathways to fill open positions?
I'm going to turn that over to our HR, but everything we do, we have to, at that level run it, it goes through the civil service process. So I will, I can't answer all of that, but I'll turn it over to Danielle, to our HR department.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you for the question. So we do have bonuses for librarians that are hired for new librarians. After completing their satisfactory performance for 3 months, they get $1,000, and after the full year, they receive a $1,000 bonus. As far as as far as other initiatives around trying to encourage, we are working with our team here as it relates to recruitment, for like even with our after school leaders, which are part-time, and then our partnership with OHR has been a wonderful, because in years past we have worked with them in attending the ALA, the American Library Association conference in recruiting and testing, and we've also we're planning on attending again this year as far as recruitment as it relates to librarians. And we also work very closely with our various clusters for our HR team to go whenever they have fairs, to even promote for our like library facility guards, which is our seasonal temporary position after school leaders. So it goes from beginning to end, from our seasonal even to our permanent civil service positions. We do what we can to recruit in order to fill these positions.
Right. So just for clarity, two things. One, and I'm actually going to prefer that this come back to us. I'm interested in hearing like additional things that you're doing. I assume that you're going to ALA and you're pursuing regular recruitment paths. I'm interested in the $1,000 bonus, as you mentioned, for librarians. And if there are things that are additional to or in response to some of the complaints and concerns that you've heard from staffing about what needs to improve, that would be really helpful. And then, Council President, if I could, I'm just going to ask just for this information to come back to us. Could you just specify what areas have the highest vacancies for you? It could be around seasonal, and so I'm interested whether there's any additional kind of like strategies around seasonal. But if you could let us know what are the largest areas of vacancies, so we can maybe work with you to help address them. And then the last thing I'd ask that you send back to us is if you could send back to us pathways for library assistants to become full librarians. So, library staff can reflect neighborhoods so that you have a pipeline. I mean, this is some things that a lot of systems are doing. They're improving and strengthening pipelines, accelerating them, in fact, and seeing a new pathway, not only for librarians from communities and neighborhoods, but to see a more diverse librarian and staffing pool come forward as well. So those are the three areas that I would ask if you could send back to us. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. That appears to be the last member that will be asking questions. I do have three quick issues, and welcome and good seeing you again, Director, in your workplace as opposed to at an event.
Thank you.
And you talk to Sade, tell her I said hi.
She's right here. She's right next to me.
I should have known. I should have known, right? Hey, Sade. If you can get
apologies, Council President. I don't have access to my chat room right now. I'm actually trying to get on the computer. My apologies.
Well, Councilwoman, go ahead. Here.
Okay.
Get recognized as Council. We're known as Sanchez.
Thank you, Director, and welcome. And I've been listening attentively with all of my colleagues. I wanted to ask, two questions, and these are more personal, around what you see and what you envision, given some of the race challenges that you have internally, what you have seen and witnessed, and then how that is going to translate to equity of services. And I specifically want to ask you about your personal perception. I know you visited McPherson Library. So can you answer those two questions for me? Like, what do you see in terms of staff, and obviously how we can help you, right? I know people want to staff up, but I also want to make sure that we staff up with people that represent the city and meet some better diversity goals.
That's a very good question, and I'm learning how complicated this process is in making some changes with the civil service process, if that's even possible. But I will tell you that initially starting in the organization, I'm going to go back from the time they started interviewing me from May all the way through when I first started. It became apparent to me that there was some significant racial issues and morale issues. So coming on board within the first couple of weeks, talking with staff and visiting the branches, it became apparent that an intentional, focused, laser-focused strategy in our human capital needed to be made immediately. So I want to introduce that change to you right now. Guy Sims, Dr. Guy Sims, who runs our DNI now, it manages or runs or oversees the Human Resource Department. So, Dr. Sims, why don't you kind of explain what you do and why you're there?
Okay, well, that's a good question. That's a good intro. First of all, Guy Sims, Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer here at the Free Library, and thank you for the question and thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about my role here and what's been happening in this. I've been here since December of 2020, so kind of like Kelly, I'm new to the scene. But in that time, a number of things have been taking place to impact and affect some of the racial concerns that people have shared, some of the issues people have had with our processes, with our policies, with just everyday interactions with one another. Like I said, I came in 2020. Our board, the Free Library Board, they put together their diversity action plan back in September 2020, and then they actualized it in, I want to say, oh my goodness, in March of 21. Thank you. In March of 21, that's when they kind of ratified it. But in their plan, they focus on 3 pillars, which is climate and culture, opportunity, and leadership and oversight. I came in 2020, and then also in March of 21, we developed our own internal DEI priorities and action plan, which focuses on inclusive workplace, effective communication, and sustainability. In April, we strengthened our diversity and inclusion steering committee, and that is a committee consisting of 22 internal staff members plus a couple of external members, and that's where we look at our policies, we look at addressing issues, we field concerns from staff members from all across the library. It gives people a voice and a forum to raise issues, and it lands on my desk, and from there we work to see how we can resolve them. Someone talked about a pathway for people to grow within the library. In 2021, we developed the Educational Assistance Fund, which provides funding for staff members to earn their associate's or bachelor's degree, which gets them on a path to looking for other opportunities. We also have a Drexel Scholarship for those who want to earn their master's degrees in library science. Once again, here's an opportunity for people to get into the system that way. Currently, I'm working with different pockets of the library, different groupings, developing DEI goals and objectives. Instead of just doing the mass, everybody at one time, I want to focus in on people in their groupings where they feel they have their most agency to affect. How can we be a better organization? How can we be more inclusive? How do we make sure that we're more equitable in what we're doing? So I'm just moving around the library. Like Kelly, I'm going from branch to branch. I'm meeting with departments. I think it's a great opportunity to raise our voices. And speaking of raising voices,
thank you. I wanted
okay,
a couple more questions. Up all my time, but I just wanted to put it on the record that the importance of this. I mean, everybody loves their neighborhood libraries. I am literally 100 feet from the Kensington Library. My house is 100 feet to the door, right? And there's a value incredibly that we need, particularly given, the lack of libraries at schools. I just want to make sure that in this process, this kind of infusion and investment doesn't happen often, and that in our haste to hire and staff up, we don't forget what was traumatic explosive situation around race, culture, diversity in the institution, and I want to make sure that you have the space to to work through these processes and these plans, so that at the other side of this, we are that, or the library system is a culture that is much more welcoming, and that employees are valued. The director mentioned a little bit around the Civil Service Commission and others, and these are the spaces where you need to let us know. I mean, obviously working with the collective bargaining units of the library, library sciences has changed, right? Technology has changed what original job descriptions and people who were in the library system, and we should be able to review all of that, right? And say, what does the new library system look and require? And I only say this because when we're hiring for diversity in city government, many times, the starting salaries are not competitive to the outside sources, and minority candidates, as you know, graduate with college debts, and they need to make a decision if they're going to start in a government public service job at 50, 55, or the private sector at 70 or 75. And that's a reality, right? And so if we want diversity, then we also have to acknowledge that this is a worker economy. Thank God finally workers get to choose, but that we're also acknowledging some of the challenges with ensuring that folks that come in. Finally, I want the director to talk a little bit around his experience, what he saw at McPherson, and how he views equity as it relates to situations like McPherson.
Councilwoman, one thing I just want to say real quick is that the intentionality of our DE&I efforts, Dr. Sims was a department of one. Now he manages the HR department. So we wanted to make that intentional down through that department, that those DE&I, diversity, equity, and inclusion principles are throughout our training and throughout our hiring. So he runs that department now. Now, McPherson was a challenge for me to go to the branch and to see that. When I go to the branches, I talk to staff. And when I talk to them, I don't talk in groups. Sometimes they may want to, but I break off individually and I talk to each employee however long they want to talk. And it ranged from anywhere from a half an hour to over an hour. Some have gone even longer than that. But they won't, it gives them an opportunity to talk to the senior staff and talk to the director and let the director know what the issues are. That particular location was the most emotional branch that I went to. The staff were crying. And you would think they were crying because they wanted to leave. They were crying because
they're great
of
staff. They're
service.
Great staff. They're great.
They were crying. Yes, they were crying because of the service that they were providing the adults, the children, and even those who suffer addiction. And it was just phenomenal for me to see that, which put in me even more of the charge to do this job the right way. Sorry. It's a changing moment to see that. And it lets you know how important our job is.
No, I appreciate that, and I know, I've been giving you, as Sade will tell you, I've been giving you a little bit of break to get your bearings before I came charging on some of our pending projects in the district. But I look forward to working with you. And Council President said, I know this is the final round. Just one last thing. Can you speak to, the library is a unique institution because it has the Library Foundation Board. Can you speak to, how that private entity that raises a lot of money and resources, how and if they've embraced the issue of equity and allowing you to do some of this work with the private funding that is coming through the system?
Well, You know, that's you know, that's something we're going to have to get back to you on. But they are open to the issues that we face in the community in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And they provide dollars and programming to meet those needs. I am learning more and more every day about that institution, as I am now the president, but I had to focus a considerable amount of my time on, getting on the library. We do have someone part of the testimony team that's here who may be able to talk about some of the specific programs that relate to that. Is Shara still?
I don't need specific programs. One of the reasons I think we got the challenges a few years ago around diversity, inclusion, some of the uproar with employees is I want to make sure that that private side, along with the public side, feels that it needs and should be held accountable and transparent to these new goals, right? And so I just, I really want it more from the purposes of, again, we always appreciate, and we have this experience in our Parks and Rec side, we have the philanthropic community. Philadelphia that does well. I just want to make sure that they have also bought into, this inclusion and equity in a real way, and that you have the space, right, to again do this work that you have to do. You have a major cultural shift that you have to do over there, and I want folks to understand how difficult and complicated that is.
Yes.
When you have a regular system that you report to, but when you have a system that is part of you but independently run, that is a little bit more challenging. And so I look forward to, again, like I said, once you get your footing, to have those conversations and figure out how we can be helpful, right, so that they can see. And I think the mayor's proposal is a demonstration of there's a commitment to the library system, to our robust library system by the administration. Has always been a priority for council, but the administration really did come forward and demonstrated that with their budget proposal. So we look forward to working through that. The library system is important to our anti-crime initiatives, to quality of life, to neighborhood anchors. So we appreciate you. I won't take up any more of your time because I am between lunch and my colleagues. So thank you so very much, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you, Council President, for the space.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Now I'm the president, so I'll do what I can to make sure that happens. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Director, thank you. And I'm sorry I was dealing with other council business. You got to, multitask when you're in this job. Just three quick things I just needed you to check on, and not for today. And welcome again. I'm putting on my district council hat today for a lot of matters. I need you to get me some information, forward me information on the Fishtown Library. So the Fishtown Library is small, outdated, inefficient, the whole 9 yards. And then there were some conversations about the Fishtown Rec Center that's directly across the street that's relatively old. The preference for a lot of people in the community and myself was actually to build a new facility on the site of the Fishtown Rec Center that could accommodate both. It makes all the sense in the world, but as usual, it's a money issue. So if you could just tell me what the status is of that request, if it's likely or unlikely, either way, you got to raise money. Widen the branch library on Lehigh Avenue. A couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, we were having an event there, and we went in a rear because it's limited space because it's on a commercial corridor. But there were some ideas about how we can activate the space in the rear of the library. The space in the rear is this open space, but it was actually around, from the floor square footage, it was around the same size as the library itself. Then, pandemic came and that kind of went by the wayside. So if you could just find out if you can, capture the conversations around that facility in the rear. And then last but not least, if you can forward to me what the status is on the Cecil B. Moore Rec Center. We went there, did a tour, again, pre-pandemic, 3-4 years ago. And at that time, I think we had library staff and recreation staff to talk about capital improvements, and I think subsequently somehow rebuild got engaged, but I just don't know what's going on there. I know it's not been accommodated. If you can forward that to me also, those three things.
Yes, sir.
All right, that would be very helpful. And again, thank you, and we look forward to working with you as you grace our wonderful city, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So with that, that will conclude our morning session. I don't see any other members teed up for questions. I want to thank you very much for your testimony today and your response to questions from members of the committee. We will take a recess. We'll come back around, let's say, 1:45, at which time we will reconvene on Microsoft Teams. Thank you very much. We'll recess to 1:45. Thank you.
Thank you.